Welcome to ECTEL Bytes, a production of the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority. I'm your host, Coretta Crooks-Charles, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. On April 22nd, apart from Earth Day, the world celebrated Girls in Information and Communications Technology, or Girls in ICT Day. And as the regulatory body for electronic communications or telecommunications in the 5 member states of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we organized a motivational virtual tech talk to encourage young people, primarily girls, to engender a greater appreciation for technology and to pursue studies and jobs in that field. We had 4 amazing women from the Eastern Caribbean, and one of them is here with us again today. But before we introduce our guests, if this is your first time joining us, you might be wondering why ECTEL Bytes? Well, the byte is a unit of digital information that most commonly consists of 8 bits. So since as we are all about electronic communication, BYTES is just a play on the word BITS, because the show will give bite-sized information about our work here at ECTEL, as well as that of the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commissions, the NTRCs, and other like-minded organizations. So let's welcome our very special guest, Jody Simpson, a solution engineer at Google and founder of TechPorts, and our Tech Talk guest, Janique-ka, a software engineer in Brussels and the founder of Women in Tech Caribbean Community. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to jump in it because we have quite a bit of questions. So this question goes to both of you. And you could go first, Jody, since this is the first time we're interacting with you. How and why did you get involved in the field of technology?
Thank you. I think in my experiences, IT was a subject in school that I did pretty well in. And so I wasn't really encouraged to pursue it. And so it was just something I did that was nice. But when I was thinking about a career, I was thinking that I want to pursue law in Jamaica. And then I went to sixth form and I was studying Cape Law. But then in the middle of all of that, my family migrated. And so I got the opportunity to start over, and I just took an inventory of what I was good at in school, because I knew for sure I didn't want to be a lawyer, but other options I wasn't sure of. And so the only way for me to pick something was to look at what I did well at in school. And then I did some research into the different fields, and I realized that, tech is one of those fields that there's a gap of women, a gap of Black women, and I felt as though, yes, I could potentially fill this gap, and I just started to pursue it, and I stayed because, one, I like the work, but I also like the social impact side of things as far as tech is concerned. So that's how I got into the industry.
I quite like your approach, very strategic. You did an assessment of what you liked and what you didn't like. Many of us, well, we didn't do that. Sometimes we were forced into something, so I quite like that. Okay, Janique-ka, what about you? How did you get involved in tech?
Yeah, definitely. Much like Jody, it wasn't a straight and obvious path. For a long time, I was pursuing natural sciences. I did biology, chemistry, physics. And I often tell this story about the fact that I was actually accepted to the University of the West Indies to do biology. That was my first acceptance letter. And up to this day, I'm not sure exactly what changed, but at a certain point, I decided this is not what I want to do. I actually want to pursue, well, first it was information technology. Then I changed to computer science. Then I actually changed to a double major in computer science because I was enjoying the courses so much. And it was actually the first time academically I was pursuing computer science, because I didn't even do it at the community college. And so, yeah, the rest is history. After doing a couple courses, I realized that I really love programming in particular, and I've been pursuing that ever since.
Okay, all right, thanks, Janique-ka. So Jody, the Bloom Project, an initiative of TechPorts, which you are the founder of, is preparing to start a 13-week program for Caribbean youth with an interest in technology. Tell us more about that project. Who can participate? what they stand to gain, how they can apply. Tell us everything.
Of course, more than happy to do so. So like you said, the Bloom Project is a 13-week initiative. It's free to participate in. And essentially, teams or participants will work in teams to create a tech-enabled solution, but they will receive guidance from mentors from a lot of different tech companies. We have Google in there, we have Square, we have Zoom, we have Pixar, there's also Nike, and we also have people who have founded companies in that mix. They will receive guidance in building out this solution, and then at the end, they also can enter into different categories to win cash and then cash rewards. So who could participate in this? You just have to be from the Caribbean. You could be a college student or a non-college student. We have folks, to answer your question, we have a few weeks ago, like we had folks who were in that weird in-between phase. You know, they're like, you graduated from sixth form, they haven't really started college yet. Yes, you can apply. We have folks who have graduated high school, haven't started sixth form yet. You're also eligible to apply. The application process is really easy. We try to make it such that the barrier to entry was low. All you have to do is go to techforce.org, click on the Bloom Project and click sign up and just fill out the application form.
Okay, I'm not sure if you want to answer this question, but before we started the show, I was asking you how our entry is going so far. And you made the comment that most of the applicants are from Jamaica, which is great, but it's open to the Caribbean. So would you like to make a special appeal for persons in other parts of the Caribbean to enter?
Yes, of course. As long as you are within the Caribbean, any country within the Caribbean, you are eligible to apply. Currently, we have mostly applications from Jamaicans. Do not be deterred. We're all, we have similar backgrounds, and we are all the universities across the Caribbean are also very similar. So if you see this as an opportunity, if you're studying, if you know how to code, if you want to expand on something that you've been working on, or you want to start working on something that you've been having in the back of your mind for a while now, this is a program to be a part of. There are two things that will happen if you join this program. It's either you will have something to add to your tech portfolio, or you have something that you could work on in the future.
Okay. And because I'm not per se a tech person, you just said a tech portfolio. I'm presuming this would be useful when you're going to study or apply for your first job. You want to tell us more about why it's so important to have a tech portfolio?
It's really important to have a tech portfolio because, one, it shows initiative. It shows that you're willing to explore something that you're not familiar with. It shows that even though you're exploring something that you're not familiar with, you actually used it to create something. And that tells a story outside of academics that, yes, you are able to look at theory, but in terms of practical, in terms of taking what you have learned and applying it in some shape or form to create something, that sends a lot of messages to whoever is looking at it could be your resume, it could be your tech portfolio, the type of candidate that you will be. If you should be eligible for an internship or even for a first job outside of college, it sends a strong signal that, one, you are capable of adapting to new technologies, you're curious, you're capable of exploring new technologies and also using them, and it shows that you're proactive, and that you can actually demonstrate ability that you could actually build something.
Okay, awesome. And before I move to the next question, you mentioned that they're going to have mentors from Google, Pixar, Zoom. This is a big deal. So I'm really encouraging, Caribbean youth to enter, not just Jamaicans, awesome, but we really want to see a wide cross section of persons from the Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean, and other Caribbean territories entering this opportunity. It's completely free. It's free. So please, we're encouraging you to learn more about tech and use your curiosity to create amazing solutions to the problems we're facing now. So I'm going to move to my next question. You're a solution engineer at Google. What exactly do you do, Jody?
A solutions engineer. So I work on the ad side of the business at Google. And so Google has a lot of advertising clients. And these clients have specific needs about different things that they want to create. Essentially, where I fall in the mix is I would take ownership of the problem that they have, scope it, find a solution, and actually build the solution that they envisioned, or build a solution to solve the problem that they have. So in summary, a solutions engineer is someone who the role takes aspects of product management and it takes aspects of software engineering, and it sort of merges those two different roles together into one. And essentially, you're just scoping the solution and you're also building the solution.
Okay, all right, thanks. So what advice would you give to Caribbean youth interested in working at Google in the future?
Those side projects, those side projects and building your tech portfolio actually goes a very long way. Always stay close to the community. I think community is a very big part of learning about new opportunities. Also leaning into some of those opportunities, because you would always know about something, but will you apply to that opportunity? Will you let people know that this is something that you're after? Once people know what you're after and the type of opportunities that they can send to you, having that community presents a lot of those opportunities to you. And some of those opportunities could very well involve Google. I also believe that in terms of internships, you want to make yourself a very strong candidate. So in terms of internships, you also want to have internships under your belt. If it's and in tune with side projects and internships, if there is not an opportunity for you to do an internship, find something to work on, find a side project to work on, because that's a story that you can always tell. And people think that it's like a straight road to get to Google, but you have a combination of experiences. And once you have an amazing story to tell, someone is going to listen to it, in addition to you having the capabilities to actually do the work at a company like Google or at another tech company.
Okay, awesome tips, Jody. Thank you so much. I have a few more questions for you, but I'm going to jump over to Janique-ka and we'll come back to you. So Janique-ka, you are the founder of Women in Tech Caribbean. Why did you create this space and how has it been able to support women in the region so far?
Yeah, very good question. A lot of people tend to ask me, where did Women in Tech Caribbean come from? And it actually came from my own need. I was attending a lot of Women in Tech events. And as Jody mentioned, a lot of people started noticing that I was attending these events. Because for instance, if I attended one, I would take a picture, I would post it on Facebook, social media, and so forth. And once people started saying, she's always going to Women in Tech events, then there was really a flood of events, opportunities, and stuff like that coming in. In addition to that, I would be at these events and I would hear about other opportunities or things going on, like Jody mentioned, for example, the Bloom project. I would hear, for example, I went to a conference at Google in London, and they were, explaining what opportunities they have, what summer programs they have, and so forth. And I kept saying to myself, I really want to share this because I'm biased. I really want to share this with Caribbean people. Because I'm here in Europe, but I want a way to share these opportunities or send these opportunities to Caribbean people. And so I kept looking for an easy way to kind of send out blasts, let's say, or to just drop like the different links and opportunities that I found out about in one central place and have like a really wide reach, and I couldn't find it. And after I realized maybe I should just start it, maybe I should just make a community like this, try to, connect with as many people as possible, have them also connect with people and try to build a network and send these opportunities that I get. And this was really the start of Women in Tech Caribbean. And now from then, 2 years ago, now we have over 200 members.
Okay, so I know you said you share information that you see, but apart from that, is there any other way that you've been able to support Caribbean women interested in tech so far?
Yes, so through the network, because the network is one thing, as I mentioned, we have over 200 people, members are part of the community. But each one, everybody in the community is in different parts of tech, and not only that, but they are all over the world. So as Jody mentioned, opportunities have been streaming in, not just me sharing opportunities, but other people who are directly involved with different companies. Let's say it might be Google, for instance, saying like, hey, I have this opportunity. Funny enough, today, a young lady that I worked with at a talk I did a few years ago reached out to me and said that Google, Microsoft, Intel, and some other companies are having a conference, a summit, and if I could share it with the community. So through things like this, we're able to not only share these opportunities, but jobs, for instance, and we're looking to expand how we share jobs and how we attract companies to share jobs to us that they want to reach a particular group of people, and also just spreading the word in terms of what other people are involved with. Because the thing about the Caribbean, we have so many different islands and so many people involved and doing amazing things, but somehow we're not able yet to bridge the gap between the different islands. Like for instance, Jody mentioned that, you know, she's Jamaican, she has this Bloom project, and right now she's attracting Jamaicans. But for some reason, you know, bridging this gap across the Eastern Caribbean to the bigger islands, Trinidad, Barbados, and so forth, that is not really happening yet. And this is something that we're trying to do with this community.
Right. And just to point out, it was because of you reaching out to me and asking, you know, is there a way you could share this amazing opportunity for Eastern Caribbean, you know, youngsters with your platform that we are here today. So you are doing a good job spreading the word. So keep it up. We appreciate that. So you are a software engineer in Brussels, and same question, what exactly do you do? And what's your advice to young women, especially those who'd love to pursue a career in tech outside of the Caribbean?
Yeah, definitely. Well, so first of all, what I do right now, I'm a general software engineer, but most of my day-to-day tasks has to do with front-end development, which is one section of web development. So I deal with the part that you can actually see on the computer. But I'm also starting to get into back-end development because I'm moving towards what you call a full stack developer, which means that you take care of the entire, you know, web stack from the front end, which is the part that you see, to the back end, so like databases and these sorts of stuff. And I use technologies such as React, languages such as JavaScript on the back end. Right now, I'm using Kotlin, which is a close family of Java. So I'm naming all these languages just in case somebody's watching and they're also interested. I hope you're like taking notes and looking these up. These are the languages that I use to enable my daily job. When it comes to advice to pursuing outside of the Caribbean, I would definitely have to reiterate the point of community. It's not easy. It's not always easy, especially in a place like Europe or a place like Brussels where I am, where the main language is actually not English, it's French and Dutch, to find a job. But I was able to secure several job offers and interviews, and they all came through community. So they all, most of the time, so I also send out cold emails, what they call cold emails. So you just find recruiters and you send them your CV. I also send out those, but the ones that were successful were the ones where I, for example, I had my eye on one particular company here in Brussels while I was still studying. They had events. I started going to their events. You know, the first event, nobody noticed me. The second event, I started, you know, raising my hand, maybe asking a question. Oh, yeah, how do you use that technology and so forth? And after a while, the people who, you know, had hiring roles in the company would notice that I was always at these events. You get around to talking and I say, oh, you know, actually, I'm finishing up my degree. I'm going to soon look for a job. And there were also other communities here in Brussels, such as Women in Tech Brussels, or Women Code BE, it's called actually. And through there, I was able to meet other software engineers who would tell me, oh, you know, I know this person who is hiring, or I actually, I'm close friends with this person. They're going to be looking for this and this and this. So I say all of this to say, the more that you connect yourself with other people within the same field, the greater you increase your chances for opportunity. You can also send out cold emails, but really community really helps in this regard. And aside from that, aside from, you know, securing interviews and getting job offers, of course, there's always the technical side, as Jody mentioned, side projects. I will stress that. I also worked on side projects. I also have my side projects that I work on right now as passion projects, like Carry COVID Map. And this is invaluable, really, even as you have a job, because it's a great opportunity to experiment, let's say, with code or technology that you might not be using on the job. And these are things that you could actually take into your job, for example. And so, yeah, side projects, working on side projects, practicing. If you're interested in software engineering in general, the good thing about software engineering is that you could get started right now. You could go on your computer once you have a computer and a stable internet connection and think about a problem that you want to solve and start coding right away and start practicing. And that's really, really important. So those are my general tips.
Awesome. Nice addition to what Jody had said. So to continue with both of you, but I'm going to ask you first, Janique-ka, what are some of the major challenges you've experienced as a Caribbean or a Black woman in tech, especially in Europe?
Yeah, so I touch on this a little bit in that, for one, speaking about Brussels, the main language isn't English. And so I have had the experience where there was a bias in terms of the language, understandably so, where they said, we are looking for a person that speaks Dutch and so forth. But outside of that, in general, in this field, there tends to be certain stereotypes or certain expectations as to what a software engineer should look like. I often get the comment, maybe I'm out with friends and I am introduced to somebody and they say, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a software engineer. And they say, oh, I didn't expect that. You don't look like a software engineer. And then it begs the question, okay, what does a software engineer look like, And so definitely in terms of challenges, I think people don't realize, it seems trivial when you hear comments like this, that you don't look like an engineer, but it actually translates as well to unconscious biases that people might have in the workforce as well, in the workplace as well. Just because you might not look like the typical image of what they expect, they might have certain assumptions when they first meet you, and you might find yourself having to prove yourself, or like prove that you're technical, or prove that you're actually nerdy, as the classic image might say. So this can prove some challenges, but yeah, just keep working harder.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Janique-ka, for that response. What about you, Jody? What are some of the major challenges you've experienced as a Caribbean or Black woman in tech?
So I have to think about this question a little bit, and I think in my work life, there's not an experience that I can point to say that this definitely happened because I'm a woman or because I'm a Black woman in tech. But an experience that stands out to me is when I was studying in community college. This was probably about 2 or 3 years after I'd migrated. And I was in a program, and there was this opportunity that came up that seemed as though one of those lifetime opportunities. But my goal was to finish community college and move on to a 4-year institute, and so to finish up my bachelor's. And so there was someone in a program that was connected to this opportunity, and she was being very adamant that I should, hop on this opportunity because it won't come around twice. And I politely declined and said that, no, this is not something that I want. If it's something for someone else, then it's sure. And she said, well, you're in a community college. These things don't happen all the time. You should pursue it. And I just left it right there because it made no sense for me to engage. But what that says to me is that there are folks who will feel as though they want to put you into specific boxes, and they want to say that, okay, this opportunity is only for people like you. You shouldn't pursue it. You shouldn't pursue what you want to do because I know what's best for you. And I feel as though if, I wasn't necessarily very solid in the type of things that I was going after, I would have been pushed into this opportunity that I personally didn't want for myself. And I feel as though if I was not an immigrant per se and not going to a community college, I don't feel as though if I was attending NYU at the time, someone would want to put me into this box, because they would imagine that I would complete NYU, and I would get even a better opportunity. So that's the one experience I could think about, is that folks will try to put you into boxes, and they will try to put you into a position that you don't necessarily want for yourself, but because that's how they see you, that's the box that you belong to. Um, and it served its purpose, but I didn't pursue it because I knew what I wanted.
I love that. And it's not just for tech, it's just being aware of your stance in life and what you want for yourself. So I really appreciate that response. As I mentioned earlier, Girls in ICT Day was recently observed under the theme Connected Girls Creating Brighter Futures. And ECTEL was able to attract over 400 students, girls and boys, from across the Caribbean. According to the International Telecommunications Union, while girls across the world tend to outperform boys in reading and writing skills, they continue to be underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or what we call STEM. However, when publicizing our virtual tech talk, I came across a few comments like, what about our boys? This is not promoting gender equality, and women have taken over tech. I explained that while there are many women in technology, it is still a field that is heavily dominated by men, and that the intention is not to exclude boys, but to encourage more girls to gain a better appreciation for ICT. So since, as you both are Caribbean women in tech in the USA as well as Brussels, what do you think might be the root cause of the poor retention regarding women in tech, and what can be done to address it? You want to go first, Jody?
Janique-ka, actually, do you want to go first on this question?
Yeah, I will take it. I will go first. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I mean, first I will say this. In the Caribbean, in general, in the educational system, at least anecdotally, you will notice that in general, classes tend to be, or the top performers tend to be girls. But as you mentioned, in STEM, and really, especially when you narrow it down to computer science, there we lose our girls. And even in a case where we do get the girls into tech, or we do encourage girls to pick up tech, unfortunately, the retention can be quite low. And I think that this has a lot to do with some of the challenges that we just mentioned, some of the lack of, like, let's say, representation, lack of role models, certain expectations that people have, as Jody mentioned, fitting certain types of people into a certain box. And so when you do enter the field, which is something that I think we don't talk about enough, it can be quite difficult. It can be quite challenging, especially if you feel like you're alone, especially if you feel like there's nobody else that looks like you, especially if, for example, you're working in a small company, like my company, for example, is quite a small company, and I'm actually the only Black software engineer. And so it can create feelings of, like, let's say, loneliness. And it could also create feelings that you have nowhere to turn to, or you don't have somebody to look to when you're facing certain types of problems. And I will have to come back to community again, and why community is so important. Because just having somebody who might have gone through exactly what you went through before, or knowing that somebody, for example, looks like you, that you can turn to and talk to about these kind of things, it just makes it so much easier. And some people may ask, okay, why, for example, me as a woman who's a software engineer, why would I want my mentor to be a woman, for example? Funny enough, I did send out a tweet saying that I was looking for a senior mentor, and I specified that I wanted it to be a woman, and it went viral. And with that, it came a lot of hate as well. Oh, why does it have to be a woman? And if you think about it from a Caribbean context and you travel, there are just certain things that you don't have to explain to another Caribbean person, right? It comes the same, I mean, the same thing applies for tech, and the same thing applies to me as a woman who's a software engineer. Just having somebody who's also a woman, there's certain things that we don't have to spend time discussing, We already understand that part. Let's get down to the meat of the matter. And so, yes, circling back to retention, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but circling back to retention, I really think that this is why this can be a problem. And I really want people to recognize as well that while you see girls in ICT pushes, or girls in ICT or women in tech pushes, please remember that the field itself, even on the international scale, is very, very lacking when it comes to women. And the retention is very low. We have a lot of women who start and never finish. And so having these types of events, having these types of activities, having these types of communities become even more important in terms of keeping people in these fields. If I think about my class, for example, that study computer science, quite a lot of the girls that studied with me are actually not in the field any longer, just to give you an example. So it's quite important.
Okay, thanks so much, Janique-ka. You want to add to that, Jody?
Yes, there's an interesting thing that you mentioned when you were describing the question, to say that, folks will ask, what about boys? But it's really about increasing the numbers for girls. Like it's not about the thing that it seems to be about. It's more so about what it actually is, which is increasing the number of girls in tech. So Janique-ka mentioned two things. She mentioned community, and she also mentioned the retention problem of starting with folks that you don't necessarily finish with. Community is a big thing for me. When I was in community college and I started in my first semester and I started getting into my studies, and then I realized that in my classroom, there's not a lot of people who look like me. There's not a lot of women. There's not a lot of Black women. And I went to one of my professors and I said, listen, what's going on? Why are there, not a lot of women? For context, I went to St. Hilda's in Jamaica. And so it's an all-girls school. I'm in a class with Black girls. And we're all studying IT. And so when I'm in a classroom now, and I'm just like, okay, where's the representation? There should be a lot more women here. And I went to the professor and he said, we just have a small amount of women in computer science. 9% of the department in computer science are women. So for every 100 students, you'll find just 9 of those who are females. And so I said to him that we need to create a community. And I started creating it in my first semester. And that was the first woman in computing community at that community college, and it's still ongoing. So when Jan mentions community, that is exactly also a part of what she's mentioning. If you are in computer science and you're a woman who is studying, if the community doesn't exist, always try to find ways to create one or to be a part of one. We need more folks, like Janique-ka mentioned, we need more folks who have context of our experience, who are in the same room or who are connected, because when it gets rough, and it will get rough when you're studying computer science, having a shared experience as opposed to an experience that you're going through by yourself is so much more wholesome, because you have a community to lean on. You have people who understand exactly what you're going through. And words of encouragement might sound like something that you just give, but in this context, it means so much more when the other person understands exactly what you're going through. And it makes the journey of progressing in tech so much more wholesome, because you know that you're not in this alone. So in terms to summarize, find the community, and if the community is not there, create it, because it's going to form a big part of whether or not you stay in tech and how you prosper in tech. Because with community comes opportunities, and things pass around very very smoothly in communities. As long as people know what you want, then they'll find different opportunities to support each other. On the retention side of things, that's also where communities come in, because if you have people who are encouraging you, you're much more likely to move further into studying this field than you are to drop out.
All right. Thank you for those responses, ladies. We're almost at the end. One more major question. What measures should be taken in the Caribbean to create more spaces where young people can thrive in ICT and to foster greater contribution to our development? Anyone?
Yeah, maybe I will take this first. Speaking from the perspective of, let's say, the Eastern Caribbean, where I'm from, I would really like to see a lot more practical programs. When I say practical programs, I mentioned software engineering, for example, being the type of field where there's very low barrier to entry. In that, if I have the computer, internet connection, I could actually develop an app, deploy it online, with a few dollars, let's say, or euros, and get it out there in front of millions. And so I know, for example, there is a mobile app development competition that has been going on annually, but I would really, really love to see a lot more of that, a lot more opportunities for people to get, especially students, to get their hands dirty and really try to solve problems and solutions in the Eastern Caribbean. I think that's really, really important. If I think about my journey into software engineering, I mentioned that I didn't even pursue computer science until the very last minute. And then I started with information technology, and then I did the first couple courses. And only then, after doing programming 1 and 2, is when I realized, oh, wow, I actually love this. This is my passion. And so giving the opportunity to students to actually try to build things, to try to code, to get their hands dirty, we might discover the next, I don't like to say the next Bill Gates because we are our own, but we might discover the next big app and the next big idea if we keep, encouraging people or keep giving them opportunities to really build something practical right now. So I would really love to see that in Eastern Caribbean, especially.
Okay, thanks, Janique-ka. What about you, Jody?
I am in agreement. I think we need more events with lower barriers to entry and need more programs with lower barriers to entry. And also community, because it's a big part of it. And keeping people connected, even people who have, been through some of the programs and they leave and then you don't get to retain connections with them. I think that is also a big part of it. But going back to fostering spaces and creating environments with low barrier to entry, I think that is one of the major parts of creating a healthy tech ecosystem. For myself, I know for sure that in terms of participating in hackathons, in terms of participating in programs, a lot of different programs as far as creating something, it could be for 3 to 6 weeks, it could be for 12 weeks. The barrier to entry was really, really low, and the value add is extremely high because you're in rooms with a lot of people who work across different sectors, who work across different tech companies. You get to network with them. You also get to stay connected to your peers. And that's one of the biggest things, because for students, after graduating, you go to different companies in terms of working. Some folks will go, using my cohort, for example, some folks will go to Google, some will go to Twitch, some will go to Twitter, some will go to other tech companies. And that creates a network of, exactly what it's like to work at Twitter, because you can always call your friend and say, okay, what's going on? If I need to switch careers or thinking about switching different companies, you know exactly what to expect. And so having those spaces where you could build those connections way into the future with folks who are in the industry, with folks who are your peers, while in the present moment getting value from it in terms of you either add to your tech portfolio, you will create something that you could say, oh, I did this on a team in collaboration with XYZ and it does XYZ. You could tie that directly into even your impact and your achievements as an individual. And that creates a sense of pride. It creates a sense of, yes, I'm pursuing something and I feel as though I am making progress on it. And that creating those environments where all of those things could thrive, I think is part of creating like a healthy tech ecosystem in the Caribbean.
Awesome. And just to point out, because you didn't even say
You're
it,
on mute.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. No, just to point out that you didn't even say it, but the Bloom Project and what you are doing, this is a practical space you're creating. So, the government has a place to play, NGOs have a place to play. If there is no space, as you rightfully said, or no community, you can create it. And this is what you are doing as young women in tech. So I'm really encouraging persons to find you guys. You'll share with us in a while where they could find you on social media, join your community, or create spaces if what they're looking for does not exist. This was really an enriching conversation. Could you just tell our viewers where they could find you on social media? Go ahead, Janique-ka.
Yes, sure. So for me personally, my personal page is my name, so Janique-ka John, and I'm on Instagram and Twitter. But when it comes to the community, Women in Tech Caribbean, I would really love to see more people join. You could find us at Women Caribbean on Twitter and Women in Tech Caribbean on Instagram. Feel free to shoot us a DM, a message, find out what opportunities and jobs we have available.
Awesome, thanks, Janique-ka. What about you, Jody? Where can they find you on social media?
For me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn for TechPorts. TechPorts is as it's spelled TECHPORTS on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook.
Okay, awesome. So any closing remarks? Just 30 seconds to a minute to give your closing remarks, Janique-ka, then Jody.
Yeah, I will say again, I can't stress it enough, community, find community. And if you're interested in programming, when you're finished watching this, go and develop something right now.
All right. Go ahead, Jody.
+1 to community. Actually +10 to community. I think it's so important. And also for folks who are interested in the Bloom project, if you follow Janique-ka's advice and go and work on something after this, you can always expand on it by receiving mentorship if you join the Bloom project. And to find out more about that, you just go to techforce.org/the Bloom project and you could sign up right here.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Jody. Jody is from Jamaica, but she lives in the States, and Janique-ka is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and she works and lives in Brussels. Thank you for spending your time with us for our 3rd episode of ECTEL Bytes. And I look forward to, liaising with you in the future and supporting your projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so if you have any questions at all, be sure to leave them in the comments and we will try to reply. And I'm really encouraging you to share this link with a woman, with a girl, a boy interested in tech. Let us try to make tech sexy or popular, because it's really important to our development. So I'd just like to say congratulations to Malia Antoine, Matalia Breen, and Jasmine DeSazy, hopefully I pronounced her surname correctly, for each winning an Amazon gift card valued at $100 US, compliments ECTEL. And this is because they participated in our follow-up Girls in ICT Day contest. And to check out their entries, you could go to our Facebook page, which is at ECTEL, or on Twitter and Instagram at ECTEL Authority, and you could see their pages. And they had to basically share a photo of them interacting with technology and the one takeaway from each of the 4 speakers from our virtual tech talk. Apart from being on our Facebook page, this recording of ECTEL Bytes will also be on our YouTube channel, which is at ECTEL, and on Twitter, ECTEL Authority. So remember, if you have contacts who are not on Facebook, you could share this information with them. Let us, get ECTEL Bytes on everybody's lips. So ECTEL Bytes airs on the 4th Wednesday of every month from 2 p.m. EST. So make sure you join on July 28th for our 4th episode. I'm Coretta Cook-Charles, your host, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, do keep safe and take care.